Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obi Thor Alliance. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Luke.
And in today's video, we are reviewing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If you like the sound of that, like and subscribe, comment down your thoughts, and stick around.
So this movie, we reacted to the trailer. We were both very hyped from what we'd seen. Do you have any experience with the Ninja Turtles prior to seeing this movie?
Yes, I saw the live action movies.
I haven't seen anything. I know the premise of the Ninja Turtles, but I hadn't seen it, but the trailer got me really hyped. So before we go on and give it a score and see if it lived up to the hype, what is this movie about in a nutshell?
So basically, to summarize its origin story, so people like Luke that haven't seen this universe before can understand it. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles want to be normal, go to school, get girls, and then they get the opportunity to do that with Superfly, the villain, wanting chaos and with his master plans, and then the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles having the opportunity to stop him and save the day and be accepted and go to high school.
Yeah, it's a really cool movie and a cool concept. And obviously animation, we got voice actors. Who are some of the stars? There's so many that were in this film.
Steph Rogen, Jackie Chan, Rose Byrne, quite a lot.
Yeah, we had Ice Cube voicing the villain Superfly. I actually enjoyed looking up and seeing who else was in there. So we had Paul Rudd playing the Gecko.
Yeah.
There was John Cena was one of the characters. There was like massive list of stars that were in this film, and it definitely had that. You could tell that Seth Rogen had a large part to do with it. It was very much his type of humour. Anything you want to add before we give our scores and tell people why we gave them?
This is definitely a very fun movie that is, I think it's definitely as good as the Spider-Man universe and maybe even a little bit better.
Yeah, so let's get into the scores. So what do you give the plot out of 10?
I gave it an 8. I really think the coolness with the storyline is really where it is. It is basic, but it is setting up for the sequel. But I think it's not too complicated.
Look, we're really sorry, Splinter. Some of the guys wanted to get pizza and I tried to talk them out of it.
It's simple enough, but it is charming enough to get the job done.
So I gave the plot an 8.5. Kind of similar reasons. Because of its simplicity, it kind of worked. They didn't overplay their hand and they didn't underplay it. It was just the right amount. It was enough to keep kids engaged, enough to keep adults, origin story, but they didn't harp on it too long. The villain wasn't too complex. You understood his reasonings, and in the end, they resolved the conflict fairly simple and then set up for future movies, which I think is a plus. I don't think all plots need to be super complex. It was a simple but good simple. So what about the voice acting in this case for this film?
This gets an outstanding 9. I really enjoyed who they got to voice these characters. I think they have quite a big... They can pick out who they want to get for the sequel as well, and I think if it wasn't for the charm of who they got, a lot of people wouldn't want to watch the movie, so they got quite... The voice acting did an amazing job.
So I gave the voice acting a 9.5, mainly big stars doing the voices, but they kind of worked. I enjoyed actually having kids voice the Ninja Turtles, or teenagers, and that worked really well. It came across well. Ice Cube for me was the standout. I think his voice is so unique and works well in any given circumstance. So it was really good to see him as the villain. So the voice acting was extremely good, so 9.5. What about the presentation / experience of this movie?
Well, in this element, it gets a 10. The presentation, the animation, like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, this animation is really where they need to go forward with the movies. And experience gets a 10. The only thing that was a nitpick is that you could tell it was a little bit too simple, but that's what the sequel was for, and I was outstanding throughout the movie.
So I also gave the presentation a 10. I really enjoyed the visuals. I like the uniqueness of doing the animation, moving away from this idea of animation needing to look lifelike to being animated, looking more like a comic book, which is kind of what the Spider-Verse movies have done, and it's changed that. I really liked it. I think it was really fun. I was engaged the whole time. I quite often talk about movies kind of losing my interest or dragging on too long. This was not the case for this. Was really well. The length of it was great, so I was engaged, so it's definitely a 10 there. What do you give the ending for this film?
For me, this gets a 7. For the basic of getting through the movie, they kind of needed the setup. I am very much looking forward to it, but as for this movie, the ending felt a little bit too simple. But it works because it's a kid's movie. You're trying to get everyone involved to try and watch this movie. So it kind of did need to end like that, but you could tell the heroes were going to win. The villain always loses, what is very typical and always happens a little bit too much. But it does get me excited with the mid-credits scene that this franchise has the potential to be better than Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so that's some big praise.
So I gave the ending a 9. I liked that it was, well, it was always going to be, we say predictable, but it is a movie tailored toward kids. You don't want to have the heroes die in movie 1 for a kid.
Get the snap one.
Yeah, you know, so it's gonna have a good ending. But I like the fact that the Ninja Turtles got what they wanted. They wanted to be teenagers. We didn't just see them do the right thing, retreat into the sewers. They got to go and have fun, and I really liked that. So it was a happy ending. The way they beat the villain was kind of easy, but it was fair. It wasn't like, oh, they wouldn't have been able to do that. I buy it. I get into it. I thought it was good. So I really liked the ending. And setting up for more films, I think, is a really cool move.
Wasn't as bad as Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, so I do give it that.
Obviously, ending on a
Everyone who does. No, not cool.
Wow, this is set it up.
A bit cool.
Can I kick it?
We think out super fun, and then everyone will think we're cool. They'll accept us.
Can I kick it?
He's making a deal.
How original? What do you give this out of 10?
For me, the one that has watched the live actions and a little bit of the early days, for me, I've seen this before. This gets a 6, but why it gets higher than when I've rated other things is that this just does a better job. I've seen this before. I've seen, they were originally turtles and then they grow up very quick. I've seen the story before, but I am looking forward to the storyline with the animation. So for me, I've seen this plot before, but I think it'll go in a better direction.
Originality an 8.5, I think. Yes, superhero origin stories, it's something that's hard to be new with, but I think having not seen the franchise helped, but it was original in the say that they wanted acceptance and that they weren't really about wanting to help people to begin with, and then they changed their mind, where a lot of hero films are, you're an orphan, I want vengeance for what happened to my parents. Things like that. It was just slightly different, I think, and the Ninja Turtles is, in essence, playful. Like that's what it's meant to be. I really like the idea of why not seeing the franchise before. Why are they ninjas? Like, why did they choose that? And it's like basically Splinter. It was like, I needed you to protect yourself from humans, so I taught you karate. And I just think that's really funny and cool. And that was original for me that hadn't seen it. But someone that's already seen it, it could just be a repeat of the same process. So how appealing was this movie to, the general population?
Oh, this gets an 8. I see a lot of people watching this. I think the funness, the animation, a lot of appeal to it. But for people that don't like animation, couldn't care less about the Turtles, that 2% out of 10 I don't see would watch it. But I think the appeal factor is very high for this movie.
So I actually gave the appeal slightly lower than Jacob. I gave it a 7. I think it has a big appeal and people that have seen it will love it. But I just think getting people wanting to see it is going to be a stretch. Animation's always hard. I think this style of animation, the average person might go, well, I don't want to watch that. It looks silly. So it's hard to get people to watch in the beginning. But don't get me wrong, once they do watch it, I think that they're going to love it. So I just think to begin with, it's hard to get it across the line. So now, recommendability, how easy is this to recommend to people?
Very easy. This gets a 9. I definitely can recommend this to mostly everyone, but I do think there is that 1% of person that either doesn't like animation or this sort of or doesn't like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that won't see it, or just is sick of tired of the superhero genre that wouldn't want to watch it, and I couldn't recommend it to those people, probably wouldn't like it.
So I gave it a 10 because I think I could recommend this to, whether everyone would take up the recommendation, another story, but I would happily recommend this to everyone and anyone because I think it's got something for all ages, even young kids. The humor isn't, the things that are kind of tailored towards adults will just go over kids' heads, so it's not inappropriate. It's just they may not find it funny, but the rest they will. Adults will sit there and laugh at it. I think there's just so much to give. I think the kids to adults, regardless gender, whatever it is, I think anyone could enjoy this film, and I'd happily recommend it to anyone. So, how rewatchable is it?
No surprise, this gets out of the 10. I definitely will watch this when the sequel comes out, and probably watch it again. And just the funness, the charm, the storyline, definitely rewatchable. But I do think the sequel is going to be amazing and spectacular. Kind of like with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and then Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But if it wasn't for this movie, the second one wouldn't be as good. So you need the first one to be origin story.
I also gave it a 10. I think it's rewatchable. I'd actually like to watch it again already, and I only watched it a couple of days ago. I'm looking forward to watching it with my family. It's just, I think it's easily rewatchable, and thinking about kids who it's kind of tailored towards, I think they will watch it over and over again because it's just has that kind of something to it that I think attracts kids. So what's your final score, Jacob?
My final score gets well-deserved 84% out of 100. I think why obviously the 6 and the 7 with the ending didn't help, but still you must go and see this movie to see the animation and the storyline. I do think it has its appeal, and definitely looking forward to the sequel, and go out and see it.
So I gave it a 91%, which is massive. I don't know if that's the highest rated film I gave this year. It'd be close to up there. I said to Jacob after I saw it, it may be my favourite film of the year, and I still kind of stand by that. I'm not saying it's the best film of the year. I just think I really enjoyed it. It's the same with Barbie. Really, really enjoyed it. Is it the best movie I've ever seen? No. But is it one of my favourite movies I've ever seen? Yes. In my mind, they're a bit different. So 91%. Really liked it. I'm usually pretty skeptical of animation. I don't give them too high marks, but this one ticked boxes, and maybe it suits me because I always talk about films being a bit too long. Maybe this is what I needed, a movie tailored towards kids. It needs to be a bit shorter and a bit simpler. Maybe that's the problem. So 91%, I really liked it. I can't wait for the next one to come out. For me, the best thing was the soundtrack. I think I really, really liked it. Obviously, it depends if you're into 90s hip-hop, but if you are, this movie nails it. Soundtrack's the best part by far.
Well, comment down below your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Be very curious to know. As always, you're awesome, and keep being awesome. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.